Welcome back to Qore Conversations. I am here with the one and only Todd Smith. Welcome back, Todd. How are you?
Great. It is a beautiful day here in Florida, so just happy to be with you. Happy to be talking about data, AI, and whatever else we want to talk about today.
Yeah, you know what? You and I could talk about a million different things, but I always like to keep it on what the audience really comes here for, right? It's like, come for the AI and data info and stay for the other, I don't know, industry experience nonsense that we could easily get into. Like, how many times are you still a Stella guy? Is that your
Oh, beer? I migrated a little because obviously
short answer?
Short answer is no. I've kind of moved off to Corona with no lime because of spending so much time in Mexico with my wife, and that's really all you're getting for $1 a beer. So I believe in the volume game, so I go there. Or Labatt's Blue Light, if I can find it. So I go northern, kind of Buffalo-ish, Pittsburghy kind of beer. So
yeah, I've consumed some of that Labatt and Molson and Stella with you in Canada many moons ago.
Yeah, that's a good point. I remember. That was a good time.
Well, today, audience, we're going to jump into like 3 different kind of main segments that I want Todd to just share thoughts on. So instead of it just being like the regular interview where I'm kind of talking with Todd about specific questions to help you, the audience, hear and see Todd kind of lay out different strategies and thoughts and things that you need to be considering. Today, it's going to be 3 specific areas. One is going to be data hygiene, just kind of a reality check there. The second will be dirty data. Todd talks about this a lot. It can be very harmful to you. And then if we have enough time, then we may actually do a screen share of QoreAI's Chrome extension. And if we can get to that in the segment, we will. If we can't, then we'll get it on the next podcast. But we're going to start with data hygiene. I've heard you say this a lot, Todd, and a lot of the content you put on LinkedIn that dealership data is lying to you, and it costs, obviously, the dealers a lot of money. And I just wanted to give you an opportunity to kind of speak a little bit more into that, to give dealers some details on your thoughts there.
Yeah, it's really interesting as you frame up data hygiene in general. Like, you hear about it a lot, that dealers should take data from their DMS, CRM, clean it, put it back in. That's challenging in and of itself. Dealers don't do that practice enough at all. So, and it's very interesting, even dealers who have gone through a CDP or say their data is cleaned, and I can give you a couple of good examples right off the cuff. We just took a group. They had a little over, they said 800,000 records. We never agree with how much data they say they have initially. So we'll have dealers say, we have hundreds of thousands of records. We're like, most likely not, based on what we actually see, verifiable actual customers that store after duplication, after matching it back to Equifax, to a true known entity, after householding, all the things that go in. But the story goes, dealer we access, they have 800,000 plus records, turns into 561,000 real people. And we're like, wow, they said their stuff was hygiene, but obviously really wasn't well. It's almost like you ever have like a young kid and you send them to go take a bath and they sort of say they got cleaned, but really we both know they weren't clean enough.
Yeah.
So same idea. The hair's not washed. Yeah, they're still pretty stinky even coming out of the shower. So we have found dealers' data is pretty stinky coming out of a lot of systems. And it was really interesting. Once we looked at it, there was over 33,000 people out of that 800,000 were deceased. So you're roughly, 2.5, almost 3%, which is pretty common. I know you would think that seems like a lot, but it's really not, because that was years and years and years, like a decade worth of records, right? So it wouldn't be uncommon to see something like that. But, we not only see data bad there, we see it just vehicle ownership. So 40%, probably on average, 41%, people no longer own the car that they bought transactionally in the DMS. So if I say, oh, this Todd bought a 2017 Tahoe, yeah, I don't own that any longer. But the DMS still thinks I do, because no one goes in and cleans it up. So email addresses, also have super high decay rate. I know we've talked about this, 2.5% a month, so over 30% a year. And then other things you really wouldn't think of having super high turnover. Like I guess I didn't think about it that deeply, but like phone numbers can be 25% more per year, like obsolete, like that they don't work, or the customer changed their phone, changed their carrier, moved, all of those things. And I find it very interesting because those, I've had the same phone number. I don't know about you, Sean. I think we've had the same phone numbers. I know since 1998. When
Yeah.
I first moved to Orlando, I got a 321 number, and I've had it ever since. So I think it's super interesting that, it's 26, almost 7 years old. But I guess people do change phone numbers. The other one is home addresses. It's like 10 to 14%. It's higher when we see dealerships in college towns or in what we call transient locations. So lots of apartment buildings around the dealership. We see it upticks even higher than that. Smaller towns, more stable, don't see it. It's on the lower bandwidth of that 10% or maybe even a little less. But, that alone, for us, there's so much value in just doing that work as a dealer, because if you really know, these are my customers, here's their accurate information, it enables you to communicate with them far more efficiently, accurately, with better messaging. And I think a lot of times people aren't thinking like that. Dealers are just blanket spending money and wasting advertising spend, wasting marketing to people who no longer own things, wasting marketing to people who are no longer breathing oxygen, wasting to people who no longer are in their area, wasting money left and right. And I don't know if it's just habits or what has happened in our business that is what seems to happen almost daily. And sometimes we have to fight dealers where they just want to market to everybody. And we're like, well, hold on, let's first start with your customers. Let's try to get them back in the door. Let's build more value, because acquiring a new customer is always more expensive than retaining an existing one, right? We know that. I think it's like 5 or 10 times more, right? The other thing that I look at that I think it's super important when we think about this data hygiene process and making sure we come out the other end with good, clean data, it also then enables you to move from, to me, that cost per CAC, our cost per customer acquisition, right? Cost. And based on NADA data today, it's like over $700 per vehicle retail. That's crazy when you think we have all this new technology. I think when you and I were in retail, maybe it was like $250 to $300 per vehicle sold. Now it's over 700. Yet we have more tech, more accurate targeting tech, and obviously it's still costing us more money. So I think for what we're trying to help dealers do is reduce that back to a what I call industry best benchmark, right? So let's get that under $300 or even $200 if we can be highly efficient with our marketing spend. And I think also when you have bad data, your sales team is chasing ghosts, your service guys are chasing cars that the customers no longer own, so your retention model is broken. And at the end of all this, you are generating reports on bad data. So now you're not only looking at bad data or skewed data, now you're making decisions that operate a multi-million-dollar business on fundamentally flawed data. So to me, the payoff is not just having clean data and rich data, but also creating much better outcomes than you could do, than most every dealer is currently doing right now. And forget leveraging AI. This is, to me, block tackle work, being more efficient operationally.
Yeah, it's interesting. You always there are so many leads to unpack that get buried in your answers. I'm going to do my best to bring a couple of them back. One, I think that dealers are insulated from actually the experience of mismatched DMS records and email address changes and all of that, because most of the time, at least in management and ownership, they are not having the same ownership experience that
Yeah.
that the people that they sell to do, right? They're not in those same systems. In some cases they are, but I think there is an insulation factor to the reality of the actual consumers of the dealership. And I also think that we have been teaching dealers, vendors, especially on the digital everything marketing side, website providers. I think there's been all of the events that go out there, and dealers are looking to these people that bring in the new philosophies, evangelizing the new way we're supposed to do business. And that carryover into this era that we're in right now is actually working against dealers than more so than it is working for them. And then I think you're also at the end was making a really strong point of forget the AI, even though the AI is really important right now, but this hygiene issue, this protecting, this ownership of data, the data conversation has been critically important for decades. That's not a new thing. So people that talk about it oftentimes are maybe missing the fact that, well, you should have already been all over these things long before we got into where now this, like you say, in the AI era, if your horse already left, like no other horse is catching up with you at this point, right? That water's already down the river. Like, good luck. So there's a lot of things here that I think
Yeah,
help
that
dealers
it's
see the urgency around this as well.
yeah, and unpacking that a little, Sean, I think it's a misconception to treat AI like SaaS. And many dealers I talk to, they're like, they want to look at it through a lens of, oh, AI is very new. I'm gonna wait till it's fleshed out, till I see better results, till I do all I want to wait. And the problem is AI is not a SaaS tool. You're not waiting for the devs to make it better. Okay.
Yeah.
And because typical software as a development team is working to add more features, add more functionality to a product to make it
Bug
more
fixes.
usable, right? That
Yeah.
is a SaaS tool. Right, bug fixes, or hey, listen, I'll sign up with your tool if it does X for me, right? And oh, we're adding that next quarter or next sprint. Cool, we'll wait. AI is a different beast in its entirety, because what AI is once you get all your data in, AI then is learning on your data. So it starts as a baby, it's an infant, and you're feeding it data and information. And then out of that, it's giving you back value, insights. And then you're tweaking those insights, right? By going into what's called the RAG, the retrieval augmentation generation, and going in and going, oh, okay, let's tweak these things and with the guardrails over the LLM. And what we're doing is we're constantly making it better, smarter. It's getting more data. It's getting more intelligent. So you're growing an entity. It's not a SaaS tool. So the problem is for all these dealers, like, we're waiting for AI. The problem to me in the end is they're going to start with babies. Yet there's going to be dealers and groups who have PhD level like AI employees that are doing everything. And I just don't see. I think that whole frame has to change, and that's why I write so much content on LinkedIn, because I want to help dealers realize that they have to change their frame. This is not SaaS. AI is its own thing, and you have to educate yourself on what AI actually is and how it's going to impact your daily business, how it impacts your customers, your employees, and just your overall operations. Because this thing is going to permeate completely organizationally. It's not a tool like a SaaS that I plug in to do a service, marketing automation, CDP, CRM, DMS, this or website. This is something that is universally going to spider through everything you touch that is electronic. And that's a big change.
Yeah, that's a huge change. And I'll just take this little moment to be a little bit promotional, because you and I are both involved in this AI study group with a couple of other folks.
Yeah.
And you put more content into LinkedIn, and I pay attention. I don't know that anybody else in automotive is putting more content that's helpful. It's just helpful. It's insightful. Much of it is drawn from your experience in working with your clients. I mean, there's just really, really good, rich information if you're wanting to learn. But not only that, you and I both are part of this. There's kind of a 4 horsemen. There's 4 of us that are doing this AI study group on Wednesday nights over 2-week periods on segmentation, learning how to prompt, learning how to use it in data. We'll get to generative around images and video. But just for you guys that are listening, we'll maybe share a little bit more about it at the end. This is a small group. I think there's 16 or 20. We want mostly dealers in this. We've let a couple of agency people in. It's totally free. So when you say you really want to help people, you're literally spending countless hours in prepping for that. You're really kind of using every single place organically to put content in front of people to be helpful to them. So there should be no guessing as to, well, would we want to talk to Todd and QoreAI to find out what they could do for our dealership? Because you're already putting so much out there for people to consume. And I think it's great. I think it's the right model. I want to get your thoughts in the direction now, after talking a little hygiene and dirty data, to how that ends up being competitively advantageous for the dealer. So like, what happens when dealers start to fix these problems?
Yeah. So look, let's take a few different problems, right? So we can go into the data, and let's say a dealer needs more customer pay. Okay. How would you even think about going about that, right? So for us, we said, well, if we need more customer pay, where should we target? And the first thing that comes to my mind are people who have service with us, but now have pretty high miles. And we haven't seen them in over 6 months. So for us, we're like, that's the best spot. If you have a high mile vehicle, over 3 years old, we haven't seen you in 6 months or even 12 months, those customers are going to have the highest RO ticket and value. So absolutely easy targeting. We built it. The insight happens. It's on automation. It can just send that list to be emailed out to promote an offer to them. It could go to a BDC to reach out. You could do anything with it. You could send a direct mail piece to them. For us, we're not marketers, but we'll make sure it's connected to the marketing that you want to do, whether it's Facebook or Google. Maybe you just want to run ads in front of those people, all of those dynamics. So for us, we see that as like a low-hanging fruit. Another one, maybe you want to work on declined services. So you want to look in and be very specific. Like, okay, I want to focus on people who declined tires. I see an inbound storm. I think we've talked about those, or brakes at that point, or it's coming up to summer. So has anyone declined getting their compressor or changed like in their car so their air blows cold, right? Or maybe you need new cabin filters. So all of these opportunities are there in plain sight. And because of how we've organized the data, it's very accessible, right? I can just write a prompt, build me that list, and let's get down and let's connect those to some type of marketing. So I think there's a lot of things you can do inside the data. Maybe you want to acquire vehicles. So in acquiring vehicles, we found a unique way to do it. So we look at inbound service appointments, but we could do it multiple ways. One is just the dealer trying to target certain make models. So they have a hit list. Hey, we do well with these cars based on what vAuto or VinQ says. So we can look for those cars when we see one, trigger it to used car manager to walk out, talk to that customer, appraise it, or maybe it drips into a text message or email to that customer who's coming in. Another thing we found was customers coming in, but they have what I call a mismatch. They have a very high propensity to buy. So it's over 750. It's a 0 to 1,000 score. So if you're over 750, your in-market insight is you're heading towards an automotive purchase really fast. And we're like, hey, if they're coming in to fix the car, yet they have a super high propensity to buy, That mismatch to us is a good person to offer a free appraisal to. They could be fixing the car because they're giving it to a spouse, a kid, selling it to a family member, curbing the car because they're upside down in equity. They've already talked to someone else at another store and now they just need to fix it, but they want to get out of it. There's a million factors that are exposed. And for us, then, you're not trying to write appraisals on every car coming into your service drive because that's impossible, right? You're not going to appraise 100 cars a day. You'll do it for one day and you'll never do it again. And your program will fail before it begins. But if I can say, here's 5 or 6 or 7 people today that have they have the propensity to buy and they're on the mismatch, they're ones you want to reach out to. So yeah, there's so much you can do with clean data. Once you have clean data, oh my gosh, it's like, I don't know. I'm, again, not the marketer, but even I feel like a kid in the candy store, and then we were started to work on, again, turning, once you have clean data, competitive advantage. So we had a group just ask us, we haven't done this. We're in the process of doing this, but I think it's exciting. So I'd love to share. And it is, the dealer group said, hey, we struggle when we appraise cars, what recon costs are for the car. Because if the shop's really busy, I can't run the car in there. No one's going to look at it. We mismatch. And, we're like, we put in our ACV in Viato with, $600 in recon or $500 as $1,400, $1,800, right? Total. And it jacks up everything that they're trying to do. So because we have so much data now, Sean, one of the things we're taking a little over 2 million ROs. So tons of data. And then we're looking at all the individual cars. Let's say a 2019 Toyota Camry. And a 2019 Toyota Camry between 60 and 75,000 miles. And we'll look at every repair order of Toyota Camrys 2019 between 60 and 75,000 miles and what was done on those particular cars. That is going to help us know that you'll punch in a VIN. It's going to say, hey, this particular car, this is what you should look for. And this is most likely what it's going to cost you based on all the global data we have and understand. We see this as the future competitive advantage for these dealers. Being able to see so much data so fast, cut through all of the noise to find the patterns that help them become better retailers. That's the world we're fighting to get towards.
Yeah, there's so many opportunities that I mean, you can feel the excitement with dealers. You can feel the interest. I think you talk about this quite a bit, where dealers aren't like, they're not afraid. Some people talk about like dealers are scared of AI. They're not. They, they're very interested, and I think that it's always interesting when something's somewhat brand new. Although to you and I, AI doesn't necessarily feel brand new. Certainly, the data side of this conversation isn't brand new. But the mixture of these things and AI's influence is new to a lot of people in the retail side of the business. And they're curious. They're like, and I think skeptical. It's if you've been in it as long as you and I have been in it, then the skepticism comes from the fact that, the internet's supposed to be the next biggest thing. It's going to transform the business massively. And it took a few years. In fact, it took several years from the very beginning when people are like, you need a website right now. And you would try to load one picture. It would take hours. Like, there was no high-speed internet in those days. Like, for you and I, we're like veterans in this. We draw back to those experiences. And then I always like to relate it to where dealers are thinking about something brand new today, especially the ones that have been in this industry as long as guys like you and I have. And I appreciate their skepticism. I understand their skepticism. At the same time, I think a lot of what you say, without being so emphatic about it, is, but don't let your skepticism keep you on the bench at least too long. Like, do what you need to do to listen, but find your trusted resources quickly. For my money, you're one of those people that I'm listening to and consuming. Like, what are you talking about? I want to understand this, because you can contextualize it into retail like other people who have never ever owned, operated, or sold a car before, yet they want to tell people in the industry how to do those things.
Yeah.
You represent both sides of the vertical, and are literally not so much shouting, but you are abundantly sharing with people specific examples of how to get the data right, own it, get it
Yep.
clean. How do you then apply AI in meaningful context that dealers have not had the ability to fix before, like they can today, and as fast as they can? So, I mean, a lot of what you cover here, and just in this conversation, like, AI is not SaaS. That is really important for people to understand, that you're not sitting around waiting for your dev team to fix these things, or implement new code, or where you are in your product roadmap. You literally have an engine of information that is so dynamic and powerful and fast that you're not waiting around for that stuff. In fact, if you're trying to build I say this all the time, if you're trying to build some SaaS thing, well, hopefully you don't know anybody that knows AI well enough to go and replicate. I mean, you and I talk about that in side conversations off the podcast, of how quickly you can go and copy something up that's just SaaS with AI. It's amazing.
Oh
So
yeah, you can use Lovable, you can use Bolt.new, you can use Cursor, you can use Replit. I mean,
yeah,
take your pick on the tool today.
yeah,
You can use Manus, right? I could go build anyone's website in a matter of 30 minutes. I don't even need their code. I could go grab the code and it just goes faster. And you can re-engineer anything. I think common knowledge has no value today, or it's quickly going to zero. I think specialized knowledge is where the value truly is. And this is why I think it's so important for dealers to get their arms around all their specialized knowledge, all their people's knowledge, get all that knowledge running on the LLM, so you and everyone can access it to make better business decisions. I think it's crazy that the dealers are still sitting on the sideline, or they're not educating themselves to understand what this really is, right? Besides the headlines. And it's crazy. I never go into Clubhouse. I got invited into a Clubhouse. I hadn't been in it since the pandemic, probably like you. And I went in, and it was a used car one, which it was interesting. But then they started talking about AI. And honestly, 70% of what was said, and I will not say the group, and I won't say who's there because I know all these people, none of it was right or factual. I actually recorded it, and I went back because I use Limitless, that little thing that clips onto me so I can listen, and it records everything, all my conversations, so I can get better personally. Like, did I do good? What did I screw up? How do I do better? Oh, this guy totally hoodwinked and controlled me in that conversation, whatever it is. And I recorded everything, and then I went back and listened to it, and it was crazy. 70% of the information that AI experts in automotive were talking about was actually misinformation.
Mm.
They didn't understand it. They said an agent and an LLM are the same thing. They said MCP, which is a model context protocols, the new thing Anthropic has kind of put out. MCPs are kind of like the easiest way that I would analyze it, or I would view it as, it is the API language of AI. It's going to allow all types of agentic agents on different LLMs to interconnect, right? So that's this model context protocol, right? So it's the AI, it's the API of AI. It was described as a what do you call it? Master. He made a whole other acronym, which is not what it is. How he described it, and I'm sitting there. I never commented because I don't know. I wasn't my place. It's not my room. But I just sat there like, this is crazy. I stayed to the end, Sean, only because I wanted to hear what next piece of misinformation was coming out.
And there is so much of that. It's all over the place. I think it's one of the reasons why this AI study group finally kind of got off the ground.
And I'm really happy that Brent, you, Bill, me are just able to get together and like
Yeah,
contribute value back to like an industry I love and I'm passionate about, like you. Like, I want to help people do whatever they're trying to do. And if
yeah,
that's just AI education, listen, everyone, dealers will almost never comment on my posts or like my posts, but they'll DM me. And I'm fine with that. They can DM me all they want. I'll keep all their secrets secret. In the end, my goal is education matters. Learning what's out there, what's today, what's tomorrow, what's next week, next month, next year, and how it's going to ultimately impact their business. Because I don't see this as a gradual thing. I see this as like, a crazy hockey stick. We're going to go from seeing little bits and then all of a sudden it's going to be everywhere. And if you go back a century, so I have a picture of a post that I'll put online, I think next week, and it shows Easter on Madison Ave, New York, and there was one car on the road, and during the Easter parade, it's all horses and carriages, one car. 13 years later, same street, same location, they're all cars, except there's one horse. And
wow.
that's over 100 years ago. And it took 13 years to transform our country or cities from horses to cars. And what we see through time, every new technology is compressed. Less, 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 less. It's faster, like, to get like complete to me adoption. So if we look fast forward, how long did the internet take? Internet took a few years, right? And then YouTube took what was it? Like, I think it was like 6 months or something to grow to like 100 million users.
Mhm.
And ChatGPT did it in like sub 30 days. And now something else I saw it's sub like 2 days. So we're everything we're doing is an accelerated format. So you can't look like, oh, it'll be like SaaS. It'll happen over the next 5 years. This is not what's going to happen. These things are going to
Mm-mm.
compress and we're going to see accelerated change. And it's going to go faster once a couple groups start seeing outpaced results. It's going to change everything, because the one thing I always say about this technology, it's not linear, it's compounding. Results compound against each other. And that to me is the magic of it. Where, hey, if I automate this piece, we have a project right now called the Emily Project. So here's this funny one. So a group person who handles payroll. And when you have lots of stores, all different pay plans for fixed ops people, for salespeople, for F&I people, for sales managers, they run it now all by hand. Like, you pull it out of the DMS, you match it to the Excel pay plans. It's like a nightmare. So we call it the Emily Project. So something that takes her days will now be done in seconds for her. And she'll still be human in the loop, which we think is super important to just
Mhm.
double check everything. But think about compressing days into seconds. That is the compounding effect we're going to see in a lot of places inside retail really soon, because this is going to be your new competitive edge.
I think this is a great place to land this episode. And so for the audience listening and or watching, tune in for the next one, because the next one we will get into a little bit of just a demonstration. I'd love to see you share with the audience. We'll do a screen share for part of it. And
Sure.
so especially for you watchers, so we can look at the QoreAI Chrome extension. Last thing I want to mention here on this episode, one, always thanks for your time, Todd. And yeah, the AI study group in LinkedIn, if you're a dealer and you're interested in learning more, make sure that you connect with Todd on LinkedIn. Of course, you can connect with me too, but this is about Todd. Like, get connected with Todd. Todd, myself, Bill Playford, and Brent Weiss. Under Brent's leadership, put together this AI study group. It's completely free, and it's already booked out for an 8-week series. But then we will do another one, and we already have people that are reaching out right now saying, hey, can we get in this next one? And what it will teach you, you will get the experts, Todd, Brent, Bill, myself, on specific areas where you won't get misinformation. You'll literally learn prompting structures like RIPE. That's an acronym, by the way. I'm not going to tell you now. I'm just going to tell you that there is real knowledge and teaching from people who have just been standing in the stream when the dam broke. And that's how you end up learning all this AI stuff, because there was no school you could go to, and now everyone wants you to sign up for their e-courses for it. We've all been in it learning from the beginning. And so we're trying to give that information, especially to people on the retail side, for free, so that you don't end up being caught off guard and surprised when all of your competitors have figured out things that you should have figured out a long time ago. So connect with Todd on LinkedIn, follow him on LinkedIn, follow QoreAI on LinkedIn, and come back here for the next episode of Qore Conversations. Thanks, Todd. It's been another great one.
Appreciate it. Thank you so much. It was great.